Imagine a quiet English countryside manor or a secluded Canadian farmhouse known only as Camp X. These weren't holiday retreats. They were the top-secret training grounds for the deadliest spies of World War II. Welcome to the world of the Special Operations Executive or so, and its American counterpart, the Office of Strategic Services. The OSS. This is where ordinary men and women were forged into silent killers, saboteurs, and masters of deception, ready to be dropped behind enemy lines. Forget what you've seen in the movies. The training these recruits went through was far more brutal and intense than any Hollywood script. They were learning to fight a new kind of war, a shadow war fought in alleyways, on lonely roads, and in the heart of enemy territory. The stakes couldn't have been higher. One mistake, one moment of hesitation, could mean not just their own capture and death, but the compromise of entire resistance networks. So what did it take to become one of Churchill's secret army? The selection process was grueling. They weren't just looking for brawn. They needed people with quick wits, nerves of steel, and an almost chameleon-like ability to blend in. Recruits came from all walks of life, linguists, locksmiths, even poachers, whose skills in silent movement and tracking were invaluable. Many were foreign nationals, refugees who had fled Nazi-occupied Europe, burning with a desire to fight back and reclaim their homelands. They had the language skills and the local knowledge that were absolutely essential for operating undercover. Once selected, they entered a world of relentless practical training. At places like Arasig in Scotland, or the infamous Camp 10 in Ontario, Canada, they were stripped of their identities and pushed to their absolute limits. The curriculum was nicknamed the School for Murder and Mayhem for a reason. Trainees learned hand-to-hand combat, but this wasn't sport. This was about incapacitating or eliminating an enemy as quickly and quietly as possible. They were taught silent killing techniques, using everything from a garrote wire to their bare hands. They learned how to handle a variety of weapons, both allied and enemy, so they could use whatever they found in the field. A key figure in this training was William E. Fairborn, former Shanghai police officer, who had developed his own brutal, no-holds-barred fighting system. He taught that there were no rules in a real fight. His methods focused on attacking the most vulnerable points of the body. He famously said, "There's no fair play, no rules except one, kill or be killed." He and his partner Eric Sykes even designed the iconic Fairburn-Sykes fighting knife, a double-edged dagger designed purely for stabbing and thrusting. It became the symbol of the commandos and secret agents, a tool for silent, deadly work. But the training went far beyond just fighting. Sabotage was a core skill. Agents learned how to derail trains, blow up bridges, and cripple factories using homemade explosives. They were taught to use common items to create chaos. A simple lump of coal could be hollowed out, packed with plastic explosive, and tossed into the tender of a locomotive, crippling the engine. They learned to make time-delay fuses from everyday objects, and mastered the art of placing charges for maximum effect with minimum risk of detection. This was a science of destruction. Then there was the dark art of espionage itself. They had to master Morse code, operating clandestine radios to send vital intelligence back to London. They practiced cryptography, learning to use complex ciphers, and, just as importantly, how to hide them. A coded message could be concealed in a seemingly innocent letter, using a system of secret signals only the sender and receiver would understand. They learned to create and maintain a cover story, a completely new identity so convincing it could withstand intense Gestapo interrogation. Every detail had to be perfect, from the clothes they wore to the way they held a cigarette. Lockpicking, safecracking, and burglary were also on the syllabus. Agents needed to be able to get into secure buildings to photograph documents or plant listening devices. They practiced on a variety of locks until they could open them in seconds, in complete darkness, with only the feel of the tools in their hands to guide them. They learned how to move silently, how to conduct surveillance without being seen, and how to tail a target through a crowded city. One of the most psychologically demanding parts of the training was the mock Jap interrogation. Trainees would be suddenly arrested by instructors dressed as Gestapo officers. They'd be subjected to grueling, realistic questioning, sleep deprivation, and psychological pressure. The goal was to break them, to test their cover stories and their mental fortitude. If they cracked under this simulated pressure, they wouldn't be sent into the field where the real thing awaited them. They had to learn to withstand pain, fear, and exhaustion while giving away nothing. Survival skills were also paramount. Many agents would be parachuted into remote, hostile territory. They had to learn to live off the land, navigate by the stars, and evade enemy patrols for days or even weeks. They were taught how to find food and water, build shelter, and treat their own injuries. A twisted ankle or a simple infection could be a death sentence in the field, so self-sufficiency was non-negotiable. The technology they used was straight out of a spy novel, because they were writing the first chapter. The SOE Station IX was a real-life Q branch, developing ingenious gadgets. There were pens that fired a single bullet, tobacco pipes with hidden daggers, exploding rats designed to be placed in factory boiler rooms. They developed suitcase radios, miniature cameras, and invisible ink. Every piece of equipment was designed to give the agent a crucial edge, to help them communicate, gather intelligence, or escape from a tight spot. The women of the SOE deserve a special mention. Figures like Virginia Hall, Nancy Wake, and Odette Hallows were some of the most effective and decorated agents of the war. They often proved even better at evading detection than their male counterparts. The Germans tended to underestimate them, an assumption these brave women used to their deadly advantage. They ran entire resistance networks, organized sabotage missions, and relayed critical intelligence, all while being hunted by the Gestapo. Virginia Hall, who had a prosthetic leg she nicknamed Cuthbert, was considered by the Germans to be the most dangerous of all Allied spies. Once, Gehav, training was complete, the moment of truth arrived. Dressed in civilian clothes, with their forged papers and hidden gadgets, they would board a black-painted Halifax or Lysander aircraft. The flight into occupied territory was perilous, flying low to avoid radar, always at risk from anti-aircraft fire and night fighters. Then, a tap on the shoulder, a final check of their parachute, and they would step out into the blackness. Alone, with the fate of the war resting, in some small part, on their shoulders, their missions were incredibly diverse. Some, like the famous heroes of Telemark Raid, were specific sabotage operations targeting critical enemy infrastructure. In that case, the German heavy water plant in Norway, crucial for their atomic bomb program. Others were tasked with organizing and supplying local resistance movements, turning disgruntled citizens into an effective guerrilla army. They would train them, arm them, and lead them in attacks against the occupying forces, tying down thousands of German troops who could have been fighting on the main fronts. The casualty rate was terrifyingly high. Of the nearly 470 SOE agents sent into France, 118 failed to return. The life expectancy of a radio operator in occupied territory could be as short as 6 weeks. They lived with the constant fear of betrayal, capture, and torture. Yet they continued to go. They were driven by a profound sense of duty, a hatred of tyranny, and a hope for a better world. The legacy of these secret schools and the agents they produced is immense. They proved that a small, well-trained, and highly motivated force could have a strategic impact far beyond its numbers. Their tactics of irregular warfare, sabotage, and subversion are still studied by special forces around the world today. The OSS would eventually evolve into the modern-day CIA, and Britain's SOE laid the groundwork for MI6's special operations. So the next time you see a quiet, unassuming country house, take a second look. During the darkest days of the 20th century, it might just have been a place where heroes were made, where ordinary people learned extraordinary skills to fight a secret war in the shadows. In doing so, helped change the course of history. Their courage and sacrifice should never be forgotten. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into the secret world of World War II spies fascinating, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into history's hidden stories. See you next time.